Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. We're back with issue 38 and it's time to hit our lore articles. So, a nice double page spread looking at Warzone Nephilim and the Pariah Nexus. So we learn about the Necrons, the Imperium, the different war zones and planets they fought over, as well as some of the characters we meet within this war zone. Then we read all about the chosen of the gods in the form of the different traitor legions who have been dedicated to a sole chaos god. Speaking of chaos gods, we discover our last one in the form of Nurgle. Although I believe we still need Slash as well to read. Then that is it for our reading articles. So yeah, there we have it. So nice little bit to go over, especially the war zone. Got a nice double page spread of the battle zone map as well, like our previous one. So that's going to be nice to read over. Plus learning about the different dramatis personae is going to be good as well, because we have some really heavy hitters there with big named characters. Right, before we do our reading, don't forget to, of course, do all the usual, please. Like this video if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel again if you haven't done so already, and drop me a comment down below. Love hearing back from you guys. If you are enjoying this content, liking, subscribing, and sharing this video as well helps this channel get noticed. And I really enjoy hearing back from you guys about how you're getting on with your hobby as well. Finally then, Warbay.shop proudly sponsors this series. They're a brilliant stocker of all things gaming. They have models, paints, gaming equipment, artwork, collector coins, pin badges, the like. You name it, they probably got it. Check out their store or go down to their website in the video description there, and you might find your next hobby project at a bit of a discount. Right, let's head to the table and read our latest lore articles. Right, back with issue 38 we are then, and our Hellbrute is looking mighty ferocious. Yeah, looking forward to getting this guy on the battlefield, which will be very soon. I'll put him off to the side, as now it's time for us to go through our latest lore articles. So I'll adjust the camera and we can dive right on in. So into our magazine we go, and here we are, our first lore article. All on the Nephilim Warzone. After the fall of Cadia, much of the galaxy was consumed by warp storms, and communication between worlds was severed. Gradually, these storms began to subside, but some areas, like the Nephilim sector, remained mysteriously silent. Troops were sent to investigate, but nothing could have prepared them for what they found. As the warp storms that had ravaged the galaxy abated, Imperial commanders were troubled by some areas where communication could not be restored. The Nephilim sector was one such place, and battle group Kalides was sent to investigate the mysterious phenomenon. What they found was terror and panic as the sector came under Necron attack. More disturbingly, a psychic malaise that the investigators dubbed the Stilling had descended on the population, leaving them limp and glassy-eyed. The investigators realized that the phenomenon was caused by a large series of activated Blackstone pylons that had been placed by the Necrons. Against furious opposition, the forces of the Imperium managed to disrupt the Necron plans and send out a distress call. In response, Battle Group Hephaestus, led by Belisarius Khul, deployed to the area. As Zarak, the Silent King, realized the threat posed by the Imperial defenders, he unleashed his might upon them. Seeing the dishonorable lengths Zarak would go to, the Necron forces turned on each other as the Imperial forces strove to destroy the pylons. Amid the fighting, an ancient weapon tore a new warp rift in real space, and the forces of Chaos joined the fight. A Necron army pushes forward, covering the surface of a planet. So yeah, well, it's just a small little line here. This is a nod to Imhotep, who sees himself as the rightful ruler of all Necrons, and yeah, he kind of wants to see Zarek fall. So Imhotep Stormlord, ruler of the Saltec dynasty, yeah, really wants to see Zarek fall and become the overall ruler. So he causes a little bit of an infighting, but yeah, it's a pretty big conflict either way. So the two main focuses of this is Imperium and Necrons, although of course Chaos is mentioned here. I believe Abaddon is heading that way in the latest lore, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, moving on. So we look at the Imperium forces. An Imperial battle group discovers the panicked inhabitants of the system fleeing in terror before the Necrons. After sending out a desperate distress call, the battle group mounts an offensive while they wait for reinforcements. Necrons. While trying to carry out the plans of Zarek the Silent King, a huge Necron presence in the warzone Nephilim erupts into open civil war, fighting each other with as much ferocity as they fight the Imperial forces. So here we have a look at the larger galactic map. There's quite a bit to read, so we'll pretty much just give you the summary. But we have our battlefronts here, so as the conflict continued, it became ever more expansive and convoluted, with infighting spreading among the Necrons, and the Chaos forces joined the fight. Every system in the war zone found itself the centre of major action. So the Lemore system here is a rather small sort of subsector. We got a Crimson Ogre class star. We got a couple of Hive worlds, an Agri world, an Ice world. And we got the macro xenological artifact classification primary. So something very important and most likely Necron-y there. That's the Lemore system. We also have the Scarran system. So orbits a giant blue star. We have the Nocto Nebulic Belt, known as the Hungering. We have a Particle Rift, which is a very hazardous area of space. We've got a Feral World, another Agri World, a Hive World, and a Moon Pylon. And finally, the Myrtika system. We got another Hive World, a Stellaris Myrtika, the Dragonic Star, Husks of Dead Worlds, and Mytal Sea Station. Hankin's world, another Agri world, a couple of Quarry worlds. And yeah, pretty much. Maybe we got mention of it actually, Imhotep. So the Myrtika system was the site of a major assault by Imhotep the Stormlord, one of the Necrons who opposed Zarek the Silent King. So yeah, there we go. Just what I was saying. Yeah, there we have the larger map of the sector. So sort of a boundary of where the Nephilim border of how far the sort of distilling reaches and affects. We've got some redacted areas coded by the Inquisition. We've got worlds that have been pretty much plundered and turned lifeless. And we've got all these different pylon worlds. And we've got outlier systems as well, parts of the Imperium. Yeah, there we have it. Of course, with these, we do have some dramatis personae to look at. Many great heroes and villains fought in the Warzone Nephilim, although seldom do people agree on which famous figures fits into this category. Here we look at individuals from both sides of the conflict whose names are whispered with hushed respect or with tremulous terror. So first off, we've got a couple of the Imperial big characters. First off is probably the biggest character in the recent lore, which is Rabute Gilliman. Rabute Gilliman is a returned Primarch of the Ultramarines and a High Lord of Terror. He aims to drive back the dark forces that encircle humanity and lead the Imperium of Man into a new era of triumph and glory. Next we have Ephriel Stern. Ephriel Stern is one of the Sisters of Battle and a loyal warrior of the Imperium. Her faith in the God Emperor left her immune to the side effects of the stilling, and she was able to use her strange powers to fight against the Luminor Zaris and the sinister Necrons that threaten the sector. Speaking of Luminor Zaris, he's the first of two focuses on the Necron characters. So Luminor Zaris is a technomancer who uses his genius to conduct experiments on living humans. He seeks to use the lesser species of the galaxy to improve the Necron form and restore them to their original organic state. So yeah, trying to reverse the curse of the Catan. There's a lot of people trying to reverse curses. Araman trying to reverse turning his entire legion to dust. And Xeris here trying to revert his robotic kin back to mortal warriors. I think perhaps they're a little bit more deadly as they are at the moment. And finally then we have the Silent King. Zarak, the Silent King, is an ancient Necron leader and ruler of the Zarakan dynasty. He aims to deny the younger species access to the warp. Meanwhile, he faces a civil war with opposing Necron factions who look with distrust on his plans and his aggressive style of war. So yeah, there we go. So that's our look at the Warzone Nephilim. Now we're going to start going back to all things Chaos and Spiky as we start looking at Favoured of the Gods. Some of those who follow the great Chaos powers will dedicate themselves to a single one of the gods, bargaining their souls away for whatever they most desire. These maniacal followers will often serve until their deaths, striving after the rewards and glory that their patron deity can offer them. Power, fortitude, sensation, death. Each Chaos god promises something different to the devoted souls who follow them. Some of the degenerates who turn to Chaos are so obsessed with the gifts that a single god can offer that they gladly throw themselves into service, forsaking all other gods and following a single path. Among the traitors of the Chaos Space Marines, there are many minor warbands that permanently turn to a single god when the incentives are right. But there are also entire legions that have served the single god for many thousands of years. These legions have taken on a character of their own, becoming warped and corrupted in the image of their patron. They bear the mark of their god's blessings with pride, and they wage war in ways that best use the gifts they are given. Death Guard. The Death Guard are devotees of Nurgle. Their minds and bodies are corrupted beyond recognition, and they spread their vile contagion throughout the galaxy with a warped delight. They have been blessed not only with near-endless resilience, but with an abundance of poxes, plagues, and diseases to be resilient against. Within their rusting power armor, their flesh rots and putrescence pours out from the joints and vents. Preceding an army of the Death Guard is an overpowering stench and a cloud of infection that fells many of the enemy, even before the Plague Marines take to the battlefield. The land shrivels and nature dies back wherever the Death Guard walk. Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children are devotees of Slaanesh. At the time of the Horus Heresy, they began seeking such extreme gratification that they murdered millions, either for sport, or to render their corpses down to make even stronger stimulants. Such pleasure-seeking eventually dulled their senses, and now they are oblivious to all but the strongest of sensations. They take to battle clad in intricate but garish armor. Many of them have degenerated into noise marines, who are obsessed with sound and blast sonic pulses at the enemy. A shockwave ripples out from the Noise Marine's sonic blaster. Thousand Suns. The Thousand Suns are devotees of Tzeentch. They were drawn into his unnavigable web in their search for occult knowledge. Each one is now a potent psyker and wields great power on the battlefield. In exchange for their sorcerous gifts, they serve their master's twisted plans, but their devotion has come at a great cost. Initially, these warriors of the Thousand Suns underwent the flesh change, where their forms were twisted into chaotic abominations. In an effort to undo the mutations, a ritual was enacted, but this failed, turning each of them to dust inside their armor. Rubric Marines of the Thousand Suns spill out from an accursed temple. So there we go, a look at 3 of the dedicated mono-god forces. We'll look at the 4th later on in the collection. Finally then, for this video, we have a page looking at the next god in the Chaos Pantheon, this one being Nurgle. Nurgle is one of the great Chaos gods. He is the master of diseases and plagues, and he delights in rot and decay, reveling in the life that springs anew from death. Nurgle is known by many names, but often his followers call him Grandfather Nurgle. Among the faithful, he is thought of as a kind and generous figure who loves all forms of life. He is particularly enamored with diseases and affliction. Nurgle's work often intrudes on real space through warp rifts from which pour illness and disease, infecting nearby worlds and transforming them into incubators of foulness. Nurgle is a giving god who loves to share his dreadful and vile gifts with everyone he can. Nurgle is depicted as a vast mountain of rotting flesh, covered in sores and boils. Across his gigantic belly, the decaying muscle splits easily, and from each tear, slimy entrails spill out, giving off a stench so foul that it is said to bend reality. This appalling figure is often pictured at the center of a putrescent garden, leaning over a huge cauldron in which he cooks up ever more deadly diseases. Spewing pollution and filth, a great unclean one of Nurgle shambles towards the front lines of an ongoing battle. And as usual in these articles, we've got 4 key points of a Nurgle sort of force and infestation. First up are feculent gnarlmaws. As the servants of Nurgle gather, maggot-ridden trees sprout around them, releasing clouds of spores into the polluted air. Poxbringers. Poxbringers are masters of unclean magic and the demonic leaders of the troops of Nurgle. They lurch across the battlefield, cutting down the foes with their swords and unleashing foul and contagious magics. Plague drones of Nurgle. Some of Nurgle's demons ride huge rot flies into battle, diseased hulks of flesh suspended from ragged, buzzing wings. Rotigus. Great unclean ones are the mightiest of Nurgle's demons, and they are as wrathful as they are filthy and disgusting. Rotigus is a particularly feared greater demon who is famous for journeying far and wide. So there we have it. A look at the latest lore in Combat Patrol magazine. So up next we got a look at stratagems, and then we get to try out a Hellbrute. So there we go, we'll bring in Hellbrute here, ready for him to smack their enemies and feel the wrath of Grafnar's hammer. But yeah, looking pretty good, and we got some nice new lore under our belt, which is really good as well. But that's it for this issue. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.